2, 3.
I'll be sure to say good things.
Yeah.
Love and light and shadow, doing little things.
Here, I watch it. Make sure it's hooked up.
And I'll make
Oh,
sure
we're 4 minutes early too.
Okay.
We're usually 4 minutes late.
There you go.
That's okay.
I'm always early.
Let's see
almost.
here.
Always early.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you too, because I'm looking at doing some stuff locally. But I saw that you'd done a couple things, I think with a couple of guys, right? Yeah. And I just tagged you.
Oh, cool. Great.
See
I'll
what
put it
you
on
got.
Do you want me to put it on now?
Huh?
Do you want me to get it on there now so I can approve it?
If you want to.
Sure.
I mean, I just tagged you on it, and yeah, it may not show up unless you approve it.
Right, that is a little mess. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, a lot of energy just landed.
Yeah, there was big energy yesterday. Big day yesterday. What was it yesterday?
Well, yesterday was the
8th.
full moon eclipse.
Oh, that was it. No wonder. Go figure that.
Full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus.
Yeah, so I was like, it was in the, what did I have? It's funny how the calendar always works out too. So I had a show, and then the second one canceled. That's what it was.
Oh, wow.
So I was up here, and I was working, and I thought, I'm going to go to the car, take a break. And then when I went to the car, it was about 4 o'clock, and I started getting those heart palpitations, and you start getting that kind of like weird thing in your throat. It was all in my throat, and I'm like, what in the hell? And I just breathe for 20 minutes, and I don't normally have to do that. I really don't. And then I heard, just go home. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going home early today. And then last night was pretty big.
Yeah.
It was pretty big. Really was. Yeah. So you're Aurora Luna's in the house, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
It's been a while since we talked to her.
Yeah.
She's here in Sedona, as you can see. We're in the same place right now. And yeah, we met like 3 years ago, and we hung out a little bit. And then she was kind enough to lend us a car because our car was broken.
That's right.
And yeah, we had some coyote exchanges over at her house. It was pretty cool. They've been big lately.
Yes.
I've had some interesting things happen with them out in VOC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's good to see you.
It's great to see
And
you.
thanks for coming into the studio. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I mean, for all of us, we always say, oh, wow, this is bigger than last month. But, man, this last little run, mid-June, July, I don't know.
Yeah.
But right up to the corridor, I guess, because it was almost like we went through like June, July, August, September, and even like the first part of October. Would that be right? Yeah. And then we hit felt like a kind of an assimilation or integration for a few days, kind of like in the old years, where we get time.
We actually got a timeout.
Right? And then
the
corridor hits, and wow, talk about divergent, and convergent.
Yes.
Just everything urgent. I mean, I don't know.
I love that.
But so, how's it been going for you?
Eye of the needle. And you can't take the past with you.
Right.
So definitely, like just what you were sharing with me, old energies coming up to be revisited. And even to that end, what I've been experiencing personally is there's like a deeper layer that I didn't even have an awareness of that's come up for clearing. And I don't even know if I know how to clear it right now. All I can do is kind of nurture myself through it. Be honest with where I'm at energetically instead of trying to cover it over and just say love and light. Can't do that in this moment with all of it. But the awareness is, of course, that everyone is navigating their own jam, right? So we have to kind of be in this energy of patience, acceptance, compassion, because everyone can only do what they can do.
Right.
Everyone's trying their best, and everyone's experiencing this same urgent, like you said, right? Energy pop up. So it's just about having that feminine energy where you can just allow it to be what it is without trying to change it.
Right. Exactly. Well, that was very well put. So many things in there. Because obviously, one, you've been awake a long time.
Yeah.
Two, you've been in service a long time. You're in a hot spot in Sedona, so you have that whole rhythm going. And then on top of that, you experience everything.
Yeah, just a girl or just
Right.
a woman.
And that's one thing I noticed ever since I got back from the 6-day hiatus. Now I think we're in the 4th week, and I would say every show but 2, and we've probably done 60, maybe 50, and all of them but 2 have been divine or have been females. And one of the things that I really noticed, first of all, they're coming out to be heard. And second, and obviously we encourage them to do that every day here, and we'll do it again now. But the other thing that really has impressed me, and you just did it, these people that I know, or that I know are high frequency, or you can feel it or whatever, the last month, I don't know what the word is, if it's their humanity, their humility, but they're so down to earth and they're human. Like, and I'm going, wow. Because we didn't see a lot of that before.
No.
We saw, and it was just part of our process. I think we had this whole teacher-student thing that we'd had for centuries and whatever, millennia, and then it starts shifting. About the time we met, it was like late 2019. I remember watching it and talking to these practitioners and getting a lot of different information. Or, I'm sorry, from different practitioners that was the same information. My modalities are dropping. My sessions are becoming like custom. Weird stuff's happening. I'm discovering new, but now that we're kind of like on the other side of it, that's one thing I've noticed is how down to earth these high vibe, high frequency, long term out there, I would call leaders that have been out there and just going, yeah, I'm just a girl.
Well, right,
Yeah.
but that's it. I mean, if we're not looking at our own pieces, then how are we helping anybody else, right? And it's also, we're at the point where, again, I feel like what's coming up is big medicine. I'm trying not to get stuck in the story of what's been unfolding, which is also another piece to it, because everything's a soul agreement and contract and all that. Like, so there's the wisdom and there's my inner child. And at one point I had them bridged around a situation, but then I went home to New York. And it completely ripped all the
You
way
mean
open
family?
again.
Family.
Yeah. Big family stuff. And of course, it has to come to healing. But again, I'm trying not to judge the fact that I can't, in this moment, bridge it back.
Yeah.
So I'm just holding myself in that energy of love, so that once I come to that place first, I can then start to open and lean into the awareness of why we're experiencing all this fun in the first place.
Right. Yeah, to me, it's a lot of where I've ended up recently.
Yeah.
And there's other things to talk about, like the masculine, the feminine, even some other things on a more broader scale. It's the I find myself, because there's obviously a difference between duality and polarity.
Sure.
And so we've been in distorted duality.
Yeah.
And now we're stepping into, say, an organic paradox polarity field, where we can hold both experiences in the middle. But what I'm noticing over the last couple of weeks is taking a pure, I don't know how to explain this, but say a pure channel or a pure truth to reality, and on the other end of it is the distorted polarity.
Yeah.
Like the illusion even. And I'm going, okay, well, these two can be seen as one.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of new for me.
Well, so that's the idea around the quantum, where we have two different things happening, and by stepping outside of judgment and just witnessing, we create a third piece, right? We create the place, it's almost the eye within the Vesica Pisces. We create the place of potential, because we're not saying good or bad to either thing that's happening. We're stepping outside of it and just holding the space of witness. And as that space of witness, we have an opportunity to create that whole new paradigm that we're headed towards.
Well,
yeah,
that's a good description. I wonder if, I never thought about this, but I wonder, because all the talk of the third energy, golden child energy, to obviously the Trinity, that's a piece of it. I wonder if when we step back like that, that's what that is.
I believe it is.
You know what I mean?
believe
It would make sense, like as a quantum observer creator, to step back, see both ends of it, and go,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just okay. You know, I see it, I witness it, right? Because in the quantum field, the way that things come to creation is through our observation. And the first rule in the quantum is that everything is source, no matter what we're witnessing. So if we're accepting everything as source, then as we witness without judgment, we then create unlimited potential. We start to, through surrender, faith, hope, all of that fun, high vibe energy, we are pulled into the quantum almost. And that's where all the manifestation can happen. The minute that we're judging and in fear,
right,
we're actually pulling ourselves out of the quantum.
yeah, that's right.
So, yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about compassion, and which means no judgment.
Yeah.
And then there's been, like what you're talking about, there's been these, you said it first, like a depth that we didn't know of the subtleties of the programming. And probably a lot of that involves family or exes or whatever. And then some processing there or whatever, but then something really loud comes in, like you going to see your family, you know. I had it happen yesterday. The chief antagonist, and I say that with respect, the
Sure.
chief antagonist in my life, you know, from a young age, I just started getting these text messages from them yesterday. I was in the Clark's Market getting some getting a
Groceries.
snack, yeah. And I just started getting this, and I thought, wow, this is crazy. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. You were kind of touching on it recently, where these things just come and get really loud and just show. I don't know. To me, it was just like showing me.
Yeah.
And I just went, oh wow, that's interesting that I'm getting this now, in this moment. What is this? Oh, that's what it is. And I just put block. You know, like
Good for you.
well, you know what I mean. Like there's no, and it wasn't like I was pissed or anything.
No, you didn't have to.
But it
rage.
was, yeah, it was like, and to me, it feels like it was the last time. You know, for that, whatever that person symbolizes or whatever role that was. So, like with you, I don't think there's something we've really dived into these last 3 or 4 months during this what I call Hell Week or Heaven Week, but the week, you know, it's not linear. But so you have had capabilities and sensitivities for quite some time, you know, which you incorporate into your work. With everything that's occurred, all the purging and the other purging and that purging that we've had this year, have you had any alteration to your abilities and that type of thing?
I would say that everything is expanding, increasing, and amplifying for
Right.
sure. And in fact, that's kind of the point. I feel like we're going through this eye of the needle or whatever each person is experiencing to create room, right? If the vessel is filled with trauma and we're holding on to that trauma via story or experience, whatever that means, then we're not really making room for our source self to anchor.
Right.
Because we're still stuck in whatever our belief is, right? That belief is everything.
Mm-hmm.
The biology of belief, right? Bruce Lipton. So it's an awareness that our thoughts, our feelings, our words are constantly creating our reality. People want to talk about manifesting as if it's something that only happens when we're desiring something. But even when we're not desiring it, we are creating it.
Right.
So it's a matter, are we consciously creating or are we unconsciously creating? And so really, this time that we're in is offering an opportunity to be in that expansive state. And my gift are my clients, students, and people that I have the honor of working with, and helping them see within themselves. Because when I'm holding that container for them, of course I'm holding it for me. Whenever I'm sharing a message, I always hear from Spirit, and did you hear that? Like, well, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, we had a sister on yesterday, and she was telling us about her evolution, and part of it was becoming, you know, stepping into her own as a healer. And she was saying, yeah, I was going through this period of my time, and I think it was like 2018, 2019, And that was the big message. She started getting clients, and with every single client, she was a client too, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's still happening on occasion. And what I'm really grateful for is that sound has become a large part of my work. So I have a full set of singing bowls now, and I'm using a lot of light language and singing and channeling. And it's been really blowing my gifts open to
Super cool.
be in so much sound.
Yeah.
Because sound frequency really does move energy. And again, if there's shadow hiding, sound really brings it right to the forefront.
Yeah. Have you seen the other studio?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when we have someone local, and even actually we can do it now if they're remote. We have studio sound. Like it's
awesome.
even better than coming out of the speakers.
Sure.
So when we have somebody local that that's one thing we want to do while I'm here is just to expand that a little bit. So maybe what we can do in 2 or 3 weeks, come in here, set up, and actually get the whole,
I would love that.
experience resonantly, like we've been doing.
Sure, that'd be a
But-
lot of fun.
Yeah, because the sound thing is coming online. There's no doubt about it.
Well, we are frequency, right?
Yeah,
So we're being offered the opportunity to have that frequency kind of dislodge some of the energies that have been stuck. It's powerful, like toning and singing, not just for me, but for any one of us. If our vessel is the one choosing a frequency to move that energy within our own bodies, like that's magic. It's
Yeah.
totally magic.
Yeah, when I got here, it would have been like the last couple of days of July when I got called over here. The first day I'm here, a guy walks in, we end up befriending him. He was a guitar player, a jazz guitar player, and
Wow.
a singer, really good singer, great vocalist. He got called here, and it's just a sidebar, but he got called here too. And so, anyway, one thing led to another, and like, hey, let's go into the studio and record a session. I'd never done it before. And then the higher self came in, or whatever you want to call it, and was like, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. And I'm like, oh, I'm scared shitless, And and so it was so fascinating because obviously the sound of my collaborators, but then breaking through this fear, which it could have been toning, it could have been like, it could have been anything, but it was a poem I had done that I always wanted to sing, right? And so I'm totally convinced that session anchored me into whatever that cycle was, which I think for me was like very much a divine masculine anchoring,
Yes.
which went right along with, anchoring the feminine too. Like it was just this whole, but yeah, and I attribute that to the sounds, even what was coming out of me or whatever. It was just crazy. I even told him at the end of the thing, I was like, because I was getting all this Kundalini energy.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, does this happen all the time? They're like, yeah, I get used to it. Because they're both accomplished musicians, so. But yeah.
Well,
Very
sure. When your creative expression comes through in whatever form that you're working with, you're honoring the God, Goddess, the source of all that is within you. That's why we're here, is to be that creative expression, whatever that looks like. And when we honor it and open to it, right? All the greats were open to their own divine frequency.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
People want to learn out of books, and I just keep saying, okay, but what happens when you just open to your
Right.
own genius?
Right.
The knowledge, the wisdom, the information's already there. And we're watching that with kids nowadays, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the kids are amazing.
They're magical.
And then, we had this this beautiful sister from UK came on like 3 weeks ago, and she's a 20-year accomplished jazz singer who ended up stepping away from that because of the matrix, apparatus that it is, the money, production, and all that.
Totally.
So she ends up getting these ukuleles, and her higher self tells her, don't tune them, make them sound, it'll come through, and it does. It's amazing. Anyway, so I was talking to her, and we were and she had watched the sessions we were doing, and she said something really interesting. I think what it is what you just said. That's why I mentioned it. And she said, obviously she'd been around a long time. She'd been a high-level performer, and she said that the reason she was attracted, it could be anyone, it was just happened to be me and Ty. She said the reason, or what attracts me to what y'all are doing, and other expressions like that, is it doesn't matter what the person sounds like. What matters is, are they present?
Yes.
And it went off in my head at that point. I thought, oh, that's it, where you actually kind of block everything out, and you're just you're that channel. And I think that's how we get there. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my absolute truth, is really our sovereign selves have everything we need, but of course the corruption of what we've been given as consciousness has infiltrated so much of what we believe about who we are. And unraveling that, when you think 90% today, what you're going to think tomorrow, because of how our minds work, it's a lot to pull out. And so sound, for me, like one of the things I love sharing with people is that when you play dissonant tones, you're starting to break those synapses and the patterns in the mind. And then when you play harmonics, you're opening up to your infinite potential. And then it's what you do with that once you leave that sound session. What are you programming your mind with? What are you saying to yourself? What are you believing? What are you choosing?
Right.
And in that, you have an unlimited amount of timelines in front of you.
Right.
And at any moment, you can snap onto your highest one, or
Right.
your best one.
Yeah, it feels to me like, and like sometimes when I have worked late here and decide I'm going to stay the night, and this hasn't happened a lot, but I'm sure it happened 4 or 5 times since July. I will walk in here, and I'll go into the big studio, and I don't even know what I'm doing, and I'll just hit, the gongs, and you're right about the dissonant and the harmonious. Like I talked to Ty about it, he explains all the science of it, like the minors and the majors and the sharps and the flats and what they mean in terms of the chakras and geometry. I mean, it's a very complex thing. It's no different than what the Hertogs talk about.
Right, sure.
What Eric Rankin talks about. What's his name? Hassim. Everyone knows him. Nassim Haramein.
Oh, yes.
But there's this connection between all of it, and I'll go in there and maybe I was a little disheveled or whatever. I'm like, because it's not really my cup of tea.
You don't know, though.
I know.
Might be more than you think.
I go and hit it, and you would think, that you hit it. Now I got to lay down so I can take it in, and that it's not going to last very long.
Oh, no.
But the sound just keeps going.
It's reverberating.
Yeah, and it's not even really. I'm not even speaking of just audibly.
No, right.
It's you can feel it.
Sure.
And the other thing I think you said too, which I've noticed more and more frequently, and I don't know if this happened to other people, but certain, if it's a tone or a frequency of some sort that comes in, the way they do, or I hear something, all of a sudden I'll get like a pain in my body.
Wow.
Right? And it's like it's telling me something's, you know what I mean? It's happened to me 3 or 4 times. And it's related to frequency or sound. Or
for
both.
sure. I'll listen to solfeggio frequencies actively. Like I'll put headsets on and I'll sit there and I'll listen. And as I do, oftentimes I'll either feel pain or I'll do body tremors, like something just like popped right out of my field, right? So again, that frequency is telling you where you could need healing or where you're holding on to something that isn't your truth. It could be anything, trauma, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, all that fun stuff. Is it all? Yeah, because I definitely want to talk about what's going on, like the trajectory,
Sure.
the different experiences. I mean, there's a lot of talk about masculine and feminine. I'm listening to people. They're not contradicting each other, but we've had some powerful women come on, even like Monday, Maya Metecular. I can't pronounce it. Anyway, she comes on a lot. And she was talking about how the feminine is taking a deep, deep dive right now. And a lot of people had talked about how the masculine had finally anchored and kind of went, kind of started to. So I know there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, but ultimately, beyond even the talk of the gender frequencies, like I'd love to get into that part of it. But I wanted to ask you more in depth about how. Okay, so you were already doing something, because we went to your house like 3 years ago and visited, and you had certain things that light workers might have around practitioners.
Sure.
And one of those, or two of those, I think at the time, were singing bowls. But you were saying now that you've got more singing bowls. I noticed that you had some events, at least one. I thought there was two, where you were putting on I know one of them was like a 3-day event.
Yes.
And I was just curious as to what you're doing, what got you there, and what exactly were you doing with your collaborators?
So what got me there was the guidance, like all things. I just hear like, okay, 3-day event, go get your venue. And so I went out and the venue was just available. And it was unbelievable that it was available because I thought for sure for the equinox it would have been taken already. And I got
So that was what, September 22nd?
Yes, at Sedonia Conscious Living Center here in Sedona, and it was amazing. And what had happened was I'd been spending a lot of time with my friend Jacob Massey, who's an amazing body worker, but more than that, he really understands the relationship between the soul and the body. And the work that I do is so far out of your body that I really desired not just to have a divine masculine also being present to anchor with me, because I feel there's so much.
Can you repeat that?
Sure.
You said, before you said that, you said, okay, the relationship between the soul and the body, and then you said something like, right before you said you wanted a masculine there with you. You said something about it, and you made it.
That the work that I do with sound and meditation brings people pretty far out.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I got you.
Like, they feel really high from the work that I do.
Okay.
Jacob is all about grounding back into the body and taking all of that information and technology and activation and making it a part of you rather than just having it be somewhere here and then you go about your day and then what? So Jacob agreed to do this event with me, and it worked out so well that we're doing another one in spring for the spring equinox. Yeah,
very cool.
He's brilliant with really he was initiated by 5 different religions by the time he was 22.
Wow.
So he really came online very early, and really is anchored into Gaia, but also amazing at reading energy. And he can touch different parts of the body, and he can tell you, oh, your spine is split, right? Part of you is grounded and part of you isn't. He can really see that for each person. So he can help.
Was he the one you were telling me about earlier? 28-year-old? Or was that
No,
you?
different. That's
Okay.
Isaac Mars.
Okay.
He's for another conversation.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Jacob is an amazing body.
Is he here local?
He's
Oh,
here
we'll have to
local,
get
and I
him
can
in
give
here.
you his contact info too.
Yeah, we'll have to get him in here.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then through that event, Sonia, who is the beautiful guardian of Sedonia Conscious Living Center,
Now, is that the one at Schnebley?
it's the old Osho.
I don't know that.
It's up by where Unity Church used to be. It's a beautiful.
Is that on 179?
No, it's on
Or out?
Deer Trail. No, it's not far. It's on Deer Trail
It's
Road.
in Sedona proper.
It's in West Sedona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location. I'll show you pictures later.
Yeah, I'd like to know about that.
So Sonia is just a wonderful guardian of this space, and through hearing my work, because she was present for the 3 days, she said, wow, I really want to start collaborating with you. So she's called me in to do some other events, and one of them I got to do with a Yavasupai elder.
Oh, wow.
Named Ukwala, who's an amazing being of light. So the 3 of us did sound together for the Illuminate Film Festival. We did a closing event.
Okay, that must have been the other promo I saw.
Yeah.
So then the one at the Conscious Living was you and this gentleman,
Yeah, Jacob.
and that was a 3-day.
Yes.
Okay, so can you just so I can understand it, because I mean obviously I've covered a lot of conferences, been to a lot of, and I've never really seen one that presented what seemed to be was going to be that happened there. So what was that like? Was it mostly the sound throughout of it?
It was sound and channeling and then body work. And what happened was, of course, we're starting on the equinox, so we needed to bring in Gaia energy. And we wanted to start from a place where we remember that our bodies belong to Gaia. It's why we're here, right? They go back to Gaia, and we're here for Gaia because it's all part of the evolution of what's happening in our universe and the multiverse, really.
Right.
But within here. The second day, we worked with angelic frequency because I believe we all are part of that energy, right? We're all everything.
Right.
I mean, everyone wants to say I'm this and I'm that, and that's great, but we're all everything.
That's right.
And the third day, we worked our way up to star frequency, still with the earth as our foundation.
Okay.
And the coding through the bowls, through my voice, through what channels is very different each day. I can sound like a First Nation Native American. I can sound like a galactic being. I can sound angelic, if you will.
Right.
And so, and I can't explain that, so.
Did you bring any bowls?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I might blow it, honestly, in this space, I might blow the energy out if I were to sing, because it's really, I project really loud.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we could always try it.
Well, isn't there something going on next door?
I don't know. We'd have to check. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
There would be.
yeah,
We
yeah.
couldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do it another time.
Yeah, we could do that. Well, I think that's what we do. You know, there's different people. Well, obviously, we had different people come in and collaborate with us. And to us, that's what that is.
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
just a, we call it Soulogy Sedona Sound Healing Sessions, or we call it Spiritual Soul. And it's all, nothing's rehearsed. It's
Right,
just,
you just collab.
there seems to be some type of,
Weaving.
yeah, like the spontaneous. I mean, even like the way that we're continuing to expand our life. It just seems like, no schedules. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
So the spontaneous thing is, yeah. That's why, like when I, because I make a lot of mental notes, but then I saw you somewhere. I went, oh, I'm just going to do it now, and let's do it now. Let's do it soon, right? Like a lady hit me up Monday, and I had her on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Where you just go with what you
Yeah,
feel, and I
exactly.
think when you do the type of thing you're talking about, that's a big part of it.
It was. Jacob and I didn't rehearse anything for the 3-day. I only knew what I was doing with the group for the first day. So the second 2 days, I had no idea what was happening for the 3.5 hours that I was facilitating until I was sitting in the energy. And it was all by divine design. And also with Yukwala and Sonia, Yukwala was definitely the star of the event.
Okay.
And I was weaving with him gently, and what I was in such deep gratitude for was clearly I'm pink hair and not First Nation in this body, in this life. And yet he gave me full rein to sing with him.
Wow.
In a way that felt natural, that sounded like a Native American would sing.
Right.
It was really, really,
Wow.
yeah, it was amazing.
And so I take two that, and I'm very interested in this because I don't feel, and this doesn't make sense because I essentially have a talk show, but like I can see where the nonverbal expressions are taking more and more of the space, and they carry a broader message too. So we're talking sounds and tuning forks and instruments and toning or whatever. But I get the impression that I guess you could say to some degree, what you started and what you're developing is a bit atypical. It's not
Perhaps.
the norm of get up and talk for 30 minutes and then the
Yeah,
next
no.
speaker, like less instructive and more the coding is just shared.
Yes,
That's
it's
what-
exactly that. We sat in a circle together, which to me was very important because even though I was facilitating, I really wasn't leading. Each person had permission to do what they felt aligned to do
Right.
in that, and that was very important to me, and Jacob as well.
Right.
At the end, people shared they wanted to listen to a particular song or they wanted to ohm together, and those were things I didn't recommend, right? That came from the wisdom of the group.
Right.
And everyone brought their wisdom. And to me, that's the most important thing because I knew that not only was I sitting in front of a panel of equals, to say the very least, everyone is gifted, every single person. So, of course, we're all mirrors for each other. And we really did get to weave different aspects of it in beautiful ways. And while I'm grateful that they were willing to receive as well, they gifted me just as much as they feel I gifted them. And it was really, really very beautiful.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And yeah, like this whole, like I think we know that, co-creation and collaboration in the physical, experience that we're having has to come online or is coming online because how could you have unity without it? You know what I mean?
For sure.
But like that whole, first of all, the whole thing with the circle to me is extremely important.
Yes.
I'm not a practitioner, but anytime I do any of that type of work, that's what I do. I just create like a circle of life, and then everything starts there. But the other thing, like having that group mind come in with essentially the same open heart creates that whole thing that you're talking about.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I feel that's the point of where we're headed, right? We did create a unified field. We were in it together, and I was just the container because what came through was
Right.
way beyond me as
Right.
a vessel in a human
Right.
form, right? It was behalf of all of us, and anyone who will be watching at any point in time. So the gift was really huge and profound. And I'm still in awe of it, and I know that part of what happened was all of this light entered
Mm-hmm.
to show me more of my shadow.
Oh,
To show me how
Yeah.
deep that well is,
yeah,
and to not judge it, but
Yeah.
to love it, and to bring it up so that it can transform and transmute.
well, I tell you what, that's a good point too, because we've all seen that rhythm, but because these expressions are expanding, number of people, expansion of the types of expression, which is allowing more of a channel. But I love, again, it's very down to earth, and they can be so riveting and so exciting and so energetically powerful that we forget that there's going to be what goes up must come down, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that has taken on a new meaning, I guess, for me. And like everything's expanding, everything's being amplified.
It's being expanded, but like we talked about earlier before we went on camera, it's also collapsing, right? So we just look at it that one last time, whether
Right.
it be through a person reaching out or whether it be a situation that looks exactly like it used to look several years ago.
Yeah,
That has to come to some sort of finality.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the next layer of it, but it's really collapsing in on itself. So the light allows us, I feel, to continue to remember that even when it's grief, even when it's hard, even when it's whatever we're experiencing, if we just give ourselves permission to feel it,
right.
we're already clearing it. It's that denial piece
Yes.
that
Yeah.
just, will bring something back over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that's even deep. Yeah, because I've noticed, and people have talked about it, that as time has gone on, especially these last couple of years, 2-3 years, when we come into the awareness, the transformation takes place. Not always, but it's begun to happen with a greater frequency. But now you're taking it because it was the awareness, and then what was it? You added a third thing.
I don't know.
Yeah. I guess.
Well, you love it, right?
Oh no, I know what it was. Sitting with it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's taken on a really powerful thing, because I know in late 2019 I started sitting with my own emotions. I'd never done that before. Like, to sit with an emotion without a story, that's a totally different experience than sitting with your anger that's still being
Stoked by a story.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm finding that to be a really powerful tool now, is to sit with whatever it may. It's not sitting with the story, it's sitting with how the story triggered me. Or I like to say now, a trigger, an activation, a channeling, and a download are all the same thing, right? But, like, to sit with it, and it just seems to work very well. And I agree with you, because for me, what's happened this year is I've come into this thing where, okay, we know our emotions ran wild. This was sustenance for certain beings and whatever story we want to
Totally.
attach to it. But
Yeah.
now, maybe this is what it is. Maybe what's happening is we're alchemizing the emotions, and now not controlling, but they're us. So they don't become like an impediment or something that we're not whole as a result of our denying it.
Totally.
We're actually just living with it and say, okay, I'm pissed off, you know? And I remember, like, sitting with anger the first time of many, okay,
Fair enough.
over 3 years. But I remember going, so this is what anger feels like. And I was like, okay, So it was almost like a no-brainer. It just was like, okay, so you're going to sit in this space. I mean, does it feel good? I'm like, no. Does it make sense? I'm like, no. Like, and then, it leaves.
But anger is also a good catalyst, right?
Yes.
Anger lets us know that something is not aligned. We're out of our authenticity. We're out of our, or it also lets us know that we may have an expectation or an attachment. So anger is a great teacher. I've been processing anger for most of my life because the story that brought me to this place had a lot of trauma in it. So that part of me is very activated, even though there's not a lot of it in my astrology chart.
Really?
Yeah, funny enough. It's somewhere there because fire is a lot of my energy. And when you remember, right, I don't even want to say learn because we've done it before. So when we start to really bring online our wisdom in the emotional field, it is exactly as you said, right? It's accepting it as a part of who we are. It becomes our super strength, our superpower to navigate our emotional field, because our emotions are how we create. That's the magnetic that's happening in our manifestation in the frequency from the multiverse.
Wow.
Right? We're electromagnetic.
Right.
The thoughts are electric. The feelings are magnetic. So we want to bring in from our feelings excitement and joy and bliss. And if it's anger, it's okay. It's just about saying, okay, what am I able to shift in order to have an awareness that this doesn't need to be here anymore? Or how long can I sit with it before it's complete?
Mm-hmm.
Can I keep it and hold it without giving it to someone else and making it theirs? That's a big one with anger.
Well, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy too because I find it very ironic, and maybe it's a part of that, that essential paradoxical quality the universe has when it teaches us things.
Yeah.
No, they're not different. They're the same.
Right.
But because we talk about, okay, so we connect to things out here, right? That's been the path. And then we embody them, right? We bring them in. And I just find it funny because we send our emotions out there, right? And now we're learning to embody them.
Right. Well,
and I just find that so ironic.
It is. It's something we were talking about today with Suzanne Ross, and also Isaac Mars had brought it up, is that, everything is us, right? No matter where we're throwing it. If we can't see that each one of us is looking at the eyes of source, we are source, everyone else is source, and while we are an individual expression, we're all still part of the same whole. And of course we're attracting into our field the things we need to learn, the parts we need to love, whether that be in the eyes and the voice of another person or something that just needs to be triggered so that we can heal it within ourselves. It's all us.
Right. That's right.
We want to point the finger out because, of course, our original wound is separation, but we're not separate.
Well, exactly, and we tend to personalize, which, like even with that, what happened with that family member yesterday, because I had, we have to check ourselves. I mean, I had to check myself, and I went, okay, so what is this? So I take the person out, and I go, oh, I'm showing myself something. Okay, so am I showing myself, like to what you were saying, is this the last hurrah of this? I mean, and I really don't know, but it could be, but it takes a whole different, or a whole, I would say a lesser charge, lesser attachment, to remove, to remove the person or the story. And that's where I've kind of come to, is like when I have an issue, and we've had some intense issues in this period that we're talking about. I can just sit there. In other words, how does it make me feel? It's not how do they make me feel. It's not how does this make me feel right now. This that was just presented to me, and takes all the personal part out. And I have a lot easier time dealing with it.
That's such a smart way to do it. I don't know if I'm even again when I come back to family. My brother left his body, and I'm not mad at that. I'm frustrated with how it happened and that no one really showed up to help him. And so, again, in that story, because soul contracts and agreements are all in perfect alignment, but I saw different timelines. If people had been able to intervene, if there would have been assistance, what could have that looked like instead of a very sad and tragic unfolding?
Yeah.
Right? So But it is, again, it goes back to, it's not mine. That was his journey. That was his choice.
Right.
Those were all things outside of my control, no matter what. And the more I tried to control it, the less control
Right.
I had. So, now it's about finding forgiveness in myself for the parts of me that feel like I didn't show up, and then also forgiving everyone else for the blame that I feel towards the unfolding.
Right.
And it's just that medicine that comes back to everyone's doing the best they can. Compassion is going to be the way through, forgiveness, gentleness. Everyone's already had it, right? We've all,
Yeah.
we could all beat each other up, ourselves up. To what end? Is that why we're here?
Yeah, it feels like to me a lot, especially these recent months, and especially, or it's come out in my my personal meetings with my personal universe, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, council. Um, it's like an energy of conscious and unconscious. I've had enough. I'm tired of the BS. Let's get this thing straight. But it's through self accountability. I mean, it's not like
Yes.
we're putting it off on the world, but I'm picking up on that. Like we truly are controlling the throttle. You know what I mean? Like, and it
Totally.
feels like people are going, hey, this is just not working. We're going to make a change. I wanted to dive into something with you, and just to kind of preface it. How long have you been practicing as an energy practitioner, and how long have you lived in Sedona?
Since 2014, I've been a practitioner, or maybe 12, somewhere between 12 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
14 is when I really owned it.
Okay.
I think in 2012 I was still working in corporate. And then I've been in Sedona I just had my 4-year Sedona-versary October 1st.
Okay, so you've been here since 2018?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So, and I know that there's, I know some of the different, what would you say, the different tribe
Yes, there are
kind
a
of
lot of different
things
tribes.
in Sedona. And that's not to take away anything from anybody,
No.
but I know, like, with who you connect with and who you collaborate with, there's a lot, obviously there would be, a lot of feminine energy,
There is.
a lot of people that have sight and certain skills and abilities. There's been a lot of talk about, the Mother Goddess landing in 2012, 2013, 14. There's been a lot of talk about the masculine, the female, the male, and all that. I was just curious, like, from your standpoint, having been here the last 4 years and being involved with clients and seeing any type of evolution through, like, your clients' experiences, where do you stand with all that? The masculine, the feminine, or where do you stand with all that? How do you see all that?
That's such a good question. I guess my awareness is that there's a lot more masculine online than there was 4 years ago, which is very exciting. We're seeing more men's groups, more men feeling safe with other men, choosing to be vulnerable with other men. Also women, right? But men need other men for that support first, because
agree.
most men's examples of masculinity were really tyrannical. The father figure in the home had a very specific role, and there wasn't a lot of room outside of it from their father and their father and their father, right? Generationally speaking, we've been in a cluster with both sexes, the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine, and they both show up completely different. It's like the opposite sides of the same coin, right?
Right.
So I'm excited to see more masculine coming out and looking for assistance and desiring to see themselves in a different way and act in a different way, own their feminine, not just their masculine, and feel safe in that without feeling judgment for that. And I am witnessing the divine feminine get better at holding space, at being loving and less judgmental, and because the feminine's wounded too. So it's right. So both sides, trigger the wounding in each side. But I do feel like, look, we're at the beginning of what feels like about a 20 to 30 year timeline of shift, depending on the choices we make in that timeline, in those potentials, I should say. So in the beginning, we're starting to see it there's starting to be more of a shift into balance.
Right.
And if we're talking about our collective of the nearly 8 billion people on the planet, we've got a ways to go. And that's okay, because not everybody's here to align to their highest potential. There is the, for lack of a better way to put it, the loyal opposition that's here to choose the darker timelines, the lower whatever, right? We're not growing only in sunshine. We need the rain.
Yeah.
So everything is, I'm watching it happen, and it feels like we're at the beginning of a journey that's bringing things into balance, so that as a collective, and that's a full body yes, once we get towards 5D, we're in that space.
Right.
But it's still, I don't want to say it's in its infancy, maybe it's toddlership.
Yeah. Fragmented.
Yeah, we're still,
Yeah.
but it does feel really awesome.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a good point about because the seasons of the last 10 years haven't, I mean, to me it was like very much like if you look back, like let's say like 3/4, the first 3/4 was really, most of the posts were about the feminine, and I mean,
Yes.
it was about, and it needed to be. And by virtue of that, somehow, as the masculine energy started to peek its head out, it wasn't going to be on as long a linear thing, right? But it doesn't mean it's not a powerful thing, because I think that's what we just witnessed, or maybe we're still witnessing. But you made a really good point, because I noticed this, and I'm going to say this has got to be true. So when a man in the past has gone to share his soul, bare his soul, where has he gone?
Right.
He's gone to women, and it could be a wife, it could be a sister, it could be, it doesn't matter the relationship. The point is that I don't think that was working, because both had programs. Number one, I'm the little boy, I need help, and one is I love you, I've got the mother's energy, I want to help you. So I noticed that this year, like even since the summer, at least for myself, in some things I'm observing, okay, where there's like a no bullshit, let's get a bunch of guys together. I've talked to a couple of my friends that are doing it. What are you doing? There's something about being able to bare your soul to a mirror of you that doesn't have that element, because that's always what we would get. Well, let me take care of you, let me feed you, let me, and there's nothing against that, because those were the programs that served us to get us to this point. But I really feel like that's a powerful statement that you're making, and that I guess some are doing, because speaking to a man today in the right environment, it's not like if we'd have done it 5 years ago. No. This is a man, you're already talking to a man who's on the same level you are, because he wouldn't be there if he hadn't have been a bit demasculated by this whole process, because we've had to lose that. And so that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about to that extent, but yeah, maybe we could even do something in Sedona with that.
Yeah. No, but really, even I know that my friend Jacob Massey is thinking about starting a men's group, which would be amazing. Like, guys need to be able to be witnessed by other men. And there's such a powerful beauty in that, because there's so much camaraderie in the wounding. A woman can't really understand a man's wound.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Right? We can hold space, but we can't fully have an awareness of it unless we're literally remembering a past life as a man, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like part of the healing has to happen within its own gender.
Right.
And then part of the healing happens with each other. And you're right. Women do not serve men by being their mom. That's not the way to heal them. And in fact, it almost, that's to me where I watch that whole narcissism empath thing happen, actually on both sides.
Of course.
When you think you're fixing someone, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it
takes people out of sovereign.
And that's a great point too. We were talking about that on a few shows in the last couple of weeks. So it must be something in the air that, the whole empath. I mean, that's a great thing to discover about yourself, but it's another thing to get down to those depths that you were talking about earlier, where you realize that one doesn't live without the other.
Right.
We've all got the frequencies of both, and we had an experience as an empath, let's just say pre-awakening, or before it became more of a collective conversation, where we were in victim consciousness, because either we were a victim or somebody else was a victim, and I think now it's really important to look at some of these traits and qualities that have had a bad connotation: narcissism, mental illness, ADHD, Asperger's, autism.
Everything's a label, but it's all us.
Yeah, but like to look at them in a different light now.
Totally.
To see what's the other side of it.
Well, if you take narcissism and you take someone who's an empath, everyone's an empath, right? But someone who's overly sensitive, it's two sides of the same coin. It's someone who inflated themselves because of their wounding versus someone who made themselves small because of their wounding.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. It's just a word, right? If we keep choosing the identities of that energy, we keep saying that's you, not me.
Right.
And that doesn't bring any healing to anyone.
Well, and I think you make a really good point too, because a lot of times we think about that type of relationship being a romantic relationship or a marriage or whatever partnership, but we're actually talking about, and you said it earlier, you see it on both sides.
Yes.
We're actually talking about every single codependent relationship, because that's the connection, because that's the only type that was available.
Yes.
So whether you were a son and a mother, or you could just go through all of them. Boss and worker. You could just go through it all. And you could find either. Like, you could find the boss that would stereotypically be the narcissist, right? And then you have the worker. But if that worker is a powerful woman, that you know what I mean?
Yes.
She could easily be the narcissist in that relationship.
Absolutely.
And he's you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's weird to be able to, after all these years, talk about what are the real so what are the real polarities, or the power of the polarities, as we have worked our way through duality, to actually see the value of both sides.
Absolutely. And that's brilliantly stated, and of course we're calling it in because we want to heal it on some level, right? Our soul is creating a classroom with all of these beautiful people in it, no matter who they are and how they show up. And we can say that we're a victim to them, or we can say, oh, right, so I started off with this victim patterning because I've come in this lifetime to clear my entire Akashic. I'm not bringing any of this with me. We can't. We cannot bring it with us. My friend Melissa Fike does amazing work with the Akashic records and really helping you clear everything, because we can't take this with us to where we're going. We really need to be able to ground. We really need to be able to say, okay, why did I call this lesson in? What am I really working with? Because we always, again, we think it's out there. But 0 to 7 years old is when we created that hard drive that's sitting back in our subconscious, right? And I loved it. Bruce Lipton said, actually, in a recent interview, you can scream at that hard drive all you want, and nothing changes, right? Because it's in the programming. The only way we're going to shift the subconscious is going into that quantum space where everything is God, and where we're in our heart center.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
So when's your next event is in the spring?
Let's see. No, I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I'm teaching a light language class this weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Or facilitating. I don't teach.
Right. Now, where do you do that? Online?
Yeah,
or?
online.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where do you go through your website or your Facebook?
Yeah, you can go through my website.
Which is what?
AuroraLunaStar.com.
AuroraLunaStar.com. That's pretty easy to remember. Can somebody write that in the comments?
Thank you.
Yeah. And then why don't you? Because I don't know how long I'll be here. I don't see it being probably till the end of the year, maybe.
I know. I'm hoping you'll come to Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
So that's a group of people coming?
Yeah, it's about 25, 30 people.
Oh, that'd be very cool.
Yeah, I think you'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a really cornucopia of a group.
Yeah.
So everyone's
I'm
very...
into that. I'm into diversity.
Yeah,
as you might know.
that's what I love about the group.
So, it's AuroraLunaStar.com. You got a light language thing going this weekend. You got other events coming up. I guess they can check there.
Yeah. Really, I'm doing some major trips next year, so that's going to be fun. I'm doing
cool.
a Glastonbury trip in May.
Wow.
I'm doing an Italy trip in September.
Wow.
I've got the spring equinox with Jacob here in Sedona, and I may do Tulum next December. I don't know
Tulum, where's that?
yet. Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. I should know. I mean, I don't.
Mexico's a big country.
So, okay. And then, yeah, talk to him too, and let's just talk about it, and maybe we'll go into the studio with,
With Ty, that would be so cool.
Yeah, Ty's amazing.
Yes, he is.
He's just a nut. He's amazing.
Well,
It's crazy. It's crazy. But
you
I
guys
guess
are brothers.
Yeah. Somebody walked in yesterday and they go, "Are y'all brothers?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "No, I really meant it. Y'all like brothers?" And I said, "No."
Not DNA in this lifetime.
Well, listen, thanks for coming in. I really
you,
appreciate
Todd.
it. It's good seeing you.
Good to
And
see
I
you
look
too.
forward to collaborating with you and your
Same.
friends and everything.
Thanks.
And exploring some things and getting them out to the people.
For sure, and thank you everybody for being here.
Yeah, and we'll see y'all later. We got another show in an hour.
Woo-hoo.
And I think that's the last one. I can't remember who it is.
I think it is.
Join us. Yeah. Okay, let me turn